don't know if he'll remember, but he was my professor when I was at Sciences Po. He's a renowned author. He's a columnist. He's known all over the world for his research and intellect in the subject of social development. And we're very fortunate to have him here with us tonight. And we invite him to come up and to deliver a keynote.
Wow, good evening, and thanks to all of you, Spark News and BNP Paribas, and BNP Paribas Sustainable Future Forum 2018 for bringing me here so I can chat with you for a few minutes. I'm really delighted. Oh, we're trying to achieve something hard in the world, which is to change direction for a complicated 7.6 billion people and a world economy of $100 trillion or so, and to really move in a different direction, and that's not easy. And we're not succeeding yet, I would say. So we're not succeeding because, like Newton told us, there's a lot of inertia, and things remain in motion on their line unless the force to shift the direction is powerful enough, and so far it has not been powerful enough. So what do I have in mind? The idea of sustainable development is combining three things: economic development, social inclusion, and environmental sustainability. The world economy, as constituted, say, real capitalism 2018, is actually quite good at the first. There's a lot of economic growth. In fact, quite remarkable, globally speaking, because we have in purchasing power terms, $130 trillion world economy. It's about $17,000 per capita. It grows at 3 to 4% per year. Amazing, actually, the scale, the scope, the dynamism. But markets are not really great at social justice. In fact, they're quite bad at it. They don't really care about social justice. That's not the purpose of markets. The purpose of markets is to make profits, and poor people get left behind. They die. They are neglected. They are marginalized. This is normal, let's say, for how markets function. And markets are really bad at environmental sustainability because markets are to make profits. Market signals have almost nothing to do with environmental sustainability. And so it's easy to make profits by ripping down rainforests or polluting oceans or doing all sorts of horrible things because the market signals are not quite up to it. And so what we get in market signals is very, very much disconnected from what we mean by sustainability. So we have this problem of a dynamo of economic growth and nothing especially relevant about social justice or social inclusion and environmental sustainability. And we've known this for a while, but we have also a kind of prevailing ideology that markets will solve the problem, growth will solve the problem, and so forth, which is just analytically wrong and historically wrong. So the idea of sustainable development is to put consciously in front of us that we need to do three things, and then we need the understanding that markets are really good at one of them, but we need other ways to accomplish the other two. And market signals can help on maybe environmental sustainability, but it's not really the main way. The main way is don't do that. That hurts. That's going to destroy species. That's going to destroy the rainforest and so forth. What we call the dirty word regulation. And we should understand that markets can help lift people out of poverty. They certainly can, but also they can leave people in poverty or grind them down, and that social justice requires taxes and redistribution. That's a core part of what makes a society actually function. So any decent, normal society taxes a lot and redistributes a lot, and that has been true for decades. But at the international level, we hardly do that at all, by the way. So the redistribution from rich to poor, the United States freaked out at the idea of that 30, 40 years ago when it was proposed by developing countries, tried to crush the developing countries, and we've been divided at the UN on that for 40 years now. And the US basically says we don't owe anything to anybody anytime outside of our borders, and now we have a president that puts that as motto number one, America first. And it's a pretty weird way to try to run the world. We won't achieve sustainable development that way. So we started with this idea of sustainable development already 26 years ago at Rio. It has so far failed, I would say. It's a great concept. I spend my life trying to promote it day by day. When I came to Columbia University from Harvard 16 years ago, I said I want the title of Professor of Sustainable Development. They said, we don't have that. I said, well, that's what I want, because I want people to say, what the hell is that? What are you doing? And so I really believe in this concept because that is what human well-being is about. That's what planetary survival is about. You want to be prosperous, you want to be fair, and you want to be sustainable. And so it's really a good idea, but it's really hard. And it's hard mostly because we have powerful interests that keep us going in a particular direction. And a lot of powerful interests want to keep emitting carbon dioxide into the air. And a lot of powerful interests want to keep chopping down the rainforest. And a lot of powerful interests want to keep their taxes low and cut social programs and cut social spending. And the United States is Exhibit A right now. We've gone to the absurd conclusion where our political system denies every one of these concepts as a concept even now. We have a president who wants to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement, who wants to end regulation on the environment, who wants to slash social programs. It's pretty nasty here right now. So we're in a big political battle. And I don't know which way it's going to go. Even our democracy is very fragile in this country, in my opinion, because even the rule of law is very fragile right now. So this is a struggle, and it's not an easy struggle. 2015, we announced the Sustainable Development Goals. Nothing really has changed since then, except for me. I've given 10 speeches a day for 3 years, which means 365 times 3, roughly 3,000 SDG speeches probably. And I don't really feel we're changing very much right now, because it's hard. And especially it's hard for me in the age of Trump, because you don't even have the rhetorical wind in the sails. You're just up against every day. I feel, oh my God, are you kidding? Really shaky, by the way. I do not feel good, as you can probably imagine, because it's weird. I'm 63 years old. We've never seen anything like this in the United States before in our history. And we're in a very, very, very tricky patch right now. But globally, this is really worth the fight. It's really worth it because it's not just nice things, it's the point of things. And I, for 16 years, headed a science institution at Columbia University, 14 years of the 16, the Earth Institute. Most nerve-wracking job in the world to have hundreds of climate scientists as your colleagues, because they tell you bad news every day. And my guru is Jim Hansen, who's an absolutely brilliant, wonderful scientist, but I just couldn't stand seeing him every day because he'd always say, Jeff, it's worse than we thought. And he told me, you know, many years ago, we're already in the zone where the ice sheets are going to disintegrate, and we're already in the zone where feedbacks are occurring. And every time I said below 2 degrees, he said, that's wrong. That is incredibly dangerous, 2 degrees. You don't know how reckless that is. And when the Paris Climate Agreement was signed on December 12, 2015, I went off to do a press conference, and Jim Hansen went off to denounce it, you know, as a crime against the planet because it's not ambitious enough. He said this idea of well below 2 degrees or aiming to achieve 1.5, people don't understand how dangerous it is. Do you really want a colleague like that? Ugh. I went through that for the last 14 years. But the truth is, I can tell you he's been proved right time and time and time and time again. And we just had studies published last week which proved him right again, that the latest evidence is that we have reached the point, we're very near or at the point, but we'll be at it, where in the previous interglacial period, which was called the Eemian, 130,000 to 115,000 years ago, the ice sheets had largely disintegrated and sea level was 8 meters higher than now. We're there. It takes time, but we're there, or we're almost there. And that really bothers me because I own property on Manhattan, a small island economy. I'm on the 3rd floor, but I need to buy a boat now because we're going to get flooded out. It's crazy what we're doing. And the ecologists absolutely are right that we are in the 6th extinction. And we can't even stop ourselves, by the way. We cannot stop ourselves. And now the Brazilian Congress, again, take off regulations on the Amazon, and the deforestation is starting again because the greed which fuels the world is extraordinarily powerful. It is our biggest addiction. We're completely addicted to wealth, okay? And it's very powerful, and it made a modern world economy. But we don't know when to stop, even when in the face, we're destroying everything. We're wiping out all of the rest of nature. And of course, Trump, you know, I won't go into all the clinical conditions, I really won't, but it's serious because I spend a lot of time with psychologists and psychiatrists talking about Mr. Trump. And it's real. Okay, so I understand for him, he can't do better. He can't. He just should not be president. That's a different matter. But for us, we've got to be able to say stop. We have to be able to draw a limit. And we're not able to do so yet. So I believe that the only way we're going to do this is some very clear plans, guidelines, and boundary conditions. First, climate. Decarbonize by mid-century. Just do that, okay? Remember what it means. It means no more coal, oil, or gas. It means all the cars are electric or synthetic liquids or hydrogen, but they're all renewable energy made. It means all the heating is electric pump. It means that we've electrified the industrial processes. That's what it means. If you're thinking, is Keystone a good investment? Is Trans Mountain a good investment? Is Exxon's latest play a good investment? The answer is no. It can't be. It's completely inconsistent with the basic idea that we need to get to zero. And even getting to zero by mid-century doesn't make us safe. It just makes us not recklessly destructive. So that's one. Second, we need to stop land conversion. That's simple. We need to stop converting forest to farms and to pasture lands and even to managed forest areas. There's almost no wilderness left on the planet. We need to stop conversion. It's not so hard. But we don't have any responsibility of global supply chains. So if you're a grain buyer, if you're a food industry lead, you don't really care too much where you're getting your upstream inputs from. And that means the Amazon's going, it means the Indonesian archipelago's going, it means that we're destroying the fisheries in the world, and so on. Zero land conversions. If we just did those two things, by the way, markets are wonderful as if you don't fund land conversions and you don't fund any more carbon projects. That's the basics. And don't let them tell you, oh, we need a transition and we need to fund this for the next. There's enough proved reserves everywhere to not only have our ramp down to zero, but then to strand a lot of the proved reserves in 2050. So we don't need any more exploration and development of fossil fuels. All projects are bad. We need to fund the good stuff now. And we need to get the value chains absolutely co-responsible, that it matters where you buy from. It matters for Apple when it buys the cobalt from the DRC, how it's being produced. It matters for Cargill where the soybeans are coming from. It matters whether you're deforesting or not. And then we need to turn our daily satellite readings into measurement so that we know what's happening, by the way, not a year or 2 or 3 years later, but daily. We can track 10,000 planes in the sky simultaneously every minute, almost perfectly, actually. I think we only lost one plane where we had no idea what happened to it till today. But that's pretty good with 10,000 flights a day. But we're not tracking the fisheries, we're not tracking the deforestation, and I'm sure that our geophysical, spatial geophysical intelligence agency could give us all the data every day, not just for drone missiles, but actually for sustainability as well. And we could have real-time data. Don't buy there. That company isn't doing this. This is a bad supply chain, and so on. So that's really the key point. I love financial markets. You make the future. Don't make the past. First of all, Donald Trump is living in the 19th century, trying to save 20th century industry and probably, I won't say more, but he's not solving anything. Don't listen. Just stop. You can pray, do other things, but we've got to build the 21st century. And we need the clear guidelines. We absolutely are at the end of this story because we've lost decades. We need to press our governments, which is very hard for them because they're not very competent, to give clear plans of action. This is what we're going to do to 2050. And then BNP and this financial industry, I have no doubt, can make a sustainable future. And that, I think, is our joint task. So I'm told my time is up, but I want to thank BNP for all of the years of innovation in this area, but just to, and Hervé for being a great partner on all of the innovations on green financing. But I was coming over here thinking, why don't I quite like green bonds? Because there should be no other kind. All bonds should automatically be green. Please don't finance anything that isn't. Thank you very much.
So speaking of the good stuff and financing the good stuff, we're gonna go to, oh, don't show everything. It gives all the secrets. Well, it's done now. We're gonna go through 3 pitches from 3 startups, and we're gonna be really, really strict on time. I think there's somebody with a